Theodore Beza, Icones, Johannes Reuchlin, Episode 1. Here is the image that introduces this part of the work. Johannes Reuchlinus, sive Capnio, Germanus Fortzensis, 1455 to 1522. These are the dates of the birth and death of John Reuchlin, or Capnio, in German, or he was a German, Germanus, and he was from the town of Pforzheim. That's what Fortzensis means. Johannes Reuchlinus, sive Capnio Germanus Fortzensis. Contecuerat integro pene seculo pietas ad Constantiensis synodi perfidiam ac crudelitatem obstupefacta, quamquam aliquat subinde martyrdibus illam minime interisse frustra in medio flammardrum supplicio sonore clamitantibus, cum porza Marcianatus Badensis civitate prodiens Ioannes cognomento Reuchlinus, quem Graece capnionem Latine fumeum possis vocare, incredibili cum sucesu Hebreae linguae studiae iam pridem consopita, conjunctis etiam Graecis literis excitavit. Nempe ut ex ipsis de inceps fontibus veritatem haurire posteris liceret. Beza begins with the title, and he says in the nominative Johannes Reuchlinus, John or Johannes Reuchlin, or Capnio. He was a German, and he was from the city of Pforzheim. Fortzensis is what we call a demonym, that is, a name that gives his geographic or national origin. Then we have the beginning of the sentence, which starts with contecuerat. So this is from conticeo. It's the third singular pluperfect indicative active, and it means to be quiet or to be silent. The subject is pietas. So piety, genuine religion, had been silent, contecuerat, for almost a complete century, integro saeculo, and pene there is an alternative spelling of pine, had been quiet for almost an entire century, because it was obstupefacta, it was dumbfounded, it was shocked. So obstupefacta is going to be feminine singular and nominative because it is modifying pietas, feminine singular nominative. It was dumbstruck at the treachery, perfidiam, and the cruelty, crudelitatem, of the Synod of Constance, Constantiensis Synodi. That synod concluded in 1418. So pietas had been silent for almost a complete century, although quamquam several martyrs aliquat martyrdibus from that origin, subinde, thereupon, or from that spot, meaning from the council, the synod, several martyrs clamitantibus, they kept shouting eloquently, sonore. So I am taking sonore here as an adverb, and of course martyrdibus and clamitantibus is masculine plural and ablative. I'm taking it as an ablative absolute. Although several martyrs kept shouting sonore eloquently that illam pietas had not at all perished, minime interi isse, but they kept shouting it in vain, frustra, there is an adverb, and they were shouting it in medio supplicio, in the midst of the punishment of the flames, flammardrum. So this is a somewhat complicated syntax here. Let's take a moment to look at it a little more closely. We have, as I've said, an ablative absolute. We have, first of all, quamquam, the subordinating conjunction, although this was true. Then we have aliquat modifying martyrdibus, masculine plural ablative, and martyribus is modified by clamitantibus, also masculine plural and ablative. And clamitantibus is from the first conjugation verb clamito clamitardre, which is the frequentative form of clamo clamare. So whereas clamare means to shout, clamitare means to keep shouting. Although several martyrs from that point on, subinde, from the time of the council, kept shouting sonore, they kept shouting eloquently, but they were shouting in vain, frustra, in the middle of the flames of torture, or in the middle of the torture of the flames. So supplicio, in the neuter singular ablative, is the object of the preposition in. It's modified by medio, and flammarum, the feminine plural genitive, comes between the preposition in and its object. Now, clamatantibus, the participle, introduces indirect speech, oratio obliqua. What were they shouting? They were shouting that it, illam, meaning pietas, had perished, not at all, minime interi isse, had not at all perished. So interi isse is the perfect infinitive of the verb intereo, to perish or to go to destruction. So, although they kept doing that, pietas had been silent for almost an entire century when, from Pforza. Now, Pforza is Pforzheim, the German town, and it is here feminine, singular, and ablative. When, from Pforza, and then we're given a description of what Pforza is. It's a city, civitate, of the Marcionatus Badensis. So both of these are masculine, singular, and genitive. Now, this took some research. This was not easy to track down. From Pforza, a city or a town of the Marquesas of Baden. So this is the region of Germany where one can find the town of Pforzheim, which is, of course, the hometown of Reuchlin. So, from that town, from Pforza, setting out proteanes, Johannes, cognomen Reuchlin. Now we have our nominative, Johannes Reuchlin, a masculine singular nominative, which is going to be the subject of the verb which is coming up, namely excitavit, way down here. When Johannes Reuchlin, setting forward from Pforza, and we have cognomento, this is a ligature for en, and cognometo is neuter singular ablative. So Johannes, last name Reuchlin, whom, quem, possus vocare, you could call, in Greek, you could call him kapnionem. Kapnionem. Now this is the Greek word ha, kapnos, and this is a word that means smoke. So the name Reuchlin in German means smoky. So whom you could call, in Greek, smoky. Latine, in Latin, you could call him fumeus, because this adjective means likewise, just like kapnos, it means smoky. So then, Johannes Reuchlin, setting out from Pforza, incredibile cum succesu, with unbelievable results, incredibile cum succesu, and this is an ablative of manner, or incredible success, you might say, to use the derivatives. What did he do? The studia Hebraei linguae, the pursuits or the studies of the Hebrew language, studies that long since consopita, had fallen asleep. So the studies of the Hebrew language had been asleep for a long time, conjunctis etiam Graecis litteris, as well as Greek literature also thrown in, joined together, and I'm taking this as another ablative absolute. What did Johannes Reuchlin do? He woke them up, excitavit. So there's our verb, third singular, perfect, indicative, and active. He woke up the studia Hebraei linguae, of the Hebrew language. Now, why did he wake them up? Nempe, obviously or evidently, in order that, ut, ex ipsis fontibus, from those very sources, those very fountains, that is, the Hebrew language and the Greek language, thereafter, de inceps, that's an adverb, from those very sources thereafter, it would be permitted his descendants, liceret posteris, to derive or to drink up the truth. He did this, of course, here's the purpose clause, that's how I'm taking it, so that it might be permitted his descendants to drink the truth, to draw up the truth from those very sources thereafter. Now, of course, the grandnephew of Reuchlin was a man named Philip Melanchthon. So this is the individual that Beza has in mind when he talks about posteris. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed that free lesson. Please like and subscribe, hit the bell. You can also become a patron at patreon.com/LatinPerDiem. And if you really loved it, you can leave a tip right here as a super fan. Thank you so much.